So welcome everyone to how to do small group online gatherings. I'm Phil Lund. I'm a congregational life consultant with the Mid-America region, and tonight we are joined by
Sharon Dittmar, congregational life consultant for the Mid-America region. I will be monitoring the chat box down at the lower right. If you have any questions, you can put them in there and I'll make sure they get asked.
Thank you, Sharon. And what we want to do tonight is just give you some ideas about different things that you can do to use. We're talking primarily about Zoom tonight, but we can also, if you have questions about, if you're thinking about using other platforms or something like that, we can talk about that as well. Sharon, do you have that link handy for the getting started with breakout rooms in Zoom? Do you have that link?
If you give me a minute, I'll bring it up.
Okay, because this is what I wanted to start today off with, to tell you like the most important thing for you to do now is to really be acquainted with how to use breakout rooms in Zoom. That's the feature that we're going to be talking about quite a bit here, because what it does is really gives us a lot of versatility in the kind of things we can do with an online platform like this. So in a moment, Sharon's going to put the link in. There it is. And also we're going to be sending you an email tomorrow with all the resources we talk about, and it will be in there. But this is definitely the tutorial you want to look at from Zoom if you are going to be doing small groups using Zoom. All right. How many people have been using Zoom already? You can just hold your hands up. A lot of folks here. Yeah. This has turned out to be the most popular video conferencing platform that people are using as they're moving to doing more and more things virtually in their congregations. And one of the reasons is Zoom was very responsive by adding new features as people wanted them. And so when I first saw they had breakout rooms, I thought that's fantastic. And they've even added closed captioning, which is something we're trying to see how we can use when we do our virtual regional assembly, if we're going to be able to do that or not. But they've got some great features on here. And those features have just really made it, like I said, very, very versatile. So what we wanted to start out with is giving you a sense of what you can do with small groups using Zoom. And what I want to say right now is that the most important small group experience you could be providing for your congregants is probably using Zoom to do check-ins. Has anybody done a check-in with anybody in their congregation with Zoom? Yeah, so we're going to talk about using Zoom to use check-ins. And Sharon has a story to tell us about a recent experience she's had with check-ins. Sharon?
I do. So I gathered a group of clergy last week to see how they were doing. And I think it's always important to hear where people are at. I could assume things about people, but I like to ask them open and honest questions so I can get a better idea about how they're doing. So when the clergy met, we started with going around and introducing ourselves, and then I had everyone in their introduction share a very brief story, say 2 minutes or less, about a story of resilience from their family. I heard hilarious, wonderful stories of resilience, people who said no, people who said yes, someone mentioned a tree that helped them. It just was fabulous. And so that was what we used to get us started. And then in the middle of the meeting, I just asked them, what are your needs? What's coming up? And they shared, and I listened. And then at the end, before we closed, I said, now everyone tell me the funniest thing that happened to you this week. And the stories were hilarious. Some of them are imprinted in my brain for forever. We just all sat back and like laughed and laughed, and it made it feel like a great meeting, even though we're virtually far away.
Thank you, Sharon. And she mentioned something there, open and honest questions. And I want to point out that anytime you do this small groups kind of work and you want to get people talking with each other, the quality of the questions really makes a difference. And Sharon, did you want to say a little bit about what your process is when you try to come up with some open and honest questions?
I do. So I've taught on open and honest questions, and I'm going to put a link in the box right now. And again, you're going to get a resource from this. It comes from the work of Parker Palmer and the Center for Courage and Renewal. I did some work with them, and they taught me how to do open and honest questions. An open question is one that can't be answered with a yes or a no. So a lot of times we ask closed questions. Phil, are you okay today? Phil's like, he has like a yes or no option. The better question is, how are you today? Phil could be like, I feel creative. I'm inspired. I've been ruminating about the last decade of my life. I mean, he could offer so much more than just a yes or a no. So an open question is one that can't be answered with a yes or a no. And it takes a minute, but you can often figure out a way to frame it so that the person, you're asking a similar but better question because the person can't answer with a yes or no. Now, every once in a while, this is not what you want for talking to your kids. Were you at home last night? You want a yes or a no, right? So they're not a tool for every place, but for small groups, they're great. The other thing is an honest question is when you can't answer. So, and people are so grateful if you ask them an honest question where you don't already know the answer. So I hate getting questions that are like, you're doing okay, right? Like they made me like, how am I going to answer? Yeah, I'm doing great. No, I'm not. You know, so you're like forcing someone into a position, whereas an honest question is more like, tell me what's inspired you. What have you found that's funny? What's beautiful outside? You have no idea what they're going to say. How has the coronavirus changed your life? You have no idea. They could take it from anywhere. It's made me think about my childhood. And you're like, oh, never would have guessed. So open and honest questions are a great tool. I put a link in the box. And again, you're going to get these resources. It might not be tomorrow. We might not send them out until we put the recording up, but you're going to get all the resources. And it has a link to what's an open and honest question and exploring that a little bit more. And Phil, I just want to mention someone put in the box, which I thought it was great, was they did a virtual coffee hour. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later in this session.
Excellent, thank you. And so what we want you all to do right now is get the experience of being in a small group, using the breakout rooms, and having a question that you can respond to. So I think we're gonna put you in groups of about 4. We're gonna give you 5 to 8 minutes to answer this question. And what we're going to suggest too, when you're in your group, is when you're done speaking, you'll each have about a minute or so. When you're done speaking, to pass the well, if we were sitting in a circle, we'd have a talking object, but pass the talking piece. Actually, just pass the microphone, so to speak, to somebody else in the room, and you could just say whatever name they have on their Zoom screen. So I changed my name to Philip Lund, so if I were there, rather than saying passing the Mid-America region, you know who I am. But okay, so the question is, and we'll put it in the chat. Sharon, can you put it in the chat before we go? The question is, what is something positive that you've learned or experienced during this time of social distancing and self-isolation, okay? What was something positive that you've learned or experienced during this time of social distancing and self-isolation? And the exact wording, Sharon, it's okay.
Yeah, I know it's not quite right. That's
Okay.
okay. A lot of things aren't quite right these days.
Okay.
Also, David, if you end up with David in your room, David, let us know that he has no video or audio abilities right now. So if you end up with someone in your room who can't respond, they walked away, that it just is not working. Actually, that happens in Zoom. You get used to it when you use it a lot.
Yeah.
So, and the other reason Phil told you that technique about calling on the next person, otherwise you seem there's like this gap and then 3 people jump in and it's awkward. So there's kind of a Zoom etiquette that helps move a small group along of calling on the next person by name.
And we generally trust that there's somebody who will get things started. But once the ball gets rolling, you just kind of go around and pass it to somebody else. And that way you stay within your time frame. So in a moment, you're going to get on the screen, and the screen is going to show you something inviting you to participate in a specific room. And I'm going to create 11 rooms of 4 to 5 people. I'm doing this automatically. So you'll get a little invitation to go to a certain Zoom room. Accept that invitation, and when you get there, share with each other what is something positive that you've learned or experienced during this time of social distancing and self-isolation. So
and how long will they have in those rooms? 6 or 7 minutes, Phil?
Yeah, 6 or 7 minutes. Okay, so off we go. Opening the rooms up. That's right. So you have to click on it to join a room. Yeah, it's like open the doors and see all the people. It's just like
wait,
church.
yeah, wait. No.
There was something like that. There we go.
Uh-oh.
So we have people reappearing. So what happens is I sent you that one message, which it says broadcast to all the rooms. It went in the little breakout room thing, which you'll find out about if you look at that tutorial. And you can send a message to everyone. So, usually when you're going to be closing down the rooms in a couple of minutes, you give them a heads up. And then you press a button that says, close rooms or whatever, and it automatically does a 60-second countdown to close the rooms. And then once that countdown's over, everybody comes back, whether they're still talking or not.
And most of us are going to need to mute when we come back in.
Oh,
too.
yeah,
That's all right. You've all been talking. That's great.
Here we go.
And
Are
then,
you going to tell us how you did that?
pardon me?
Are you going to tell us how you did that?
The Zoom room?
Yeah.
With the breakout room? Yeah, I will just, I'll just, I'll go through it with you. To really see how to do it though, go to that tutorial about using breakout rooms. But what I did is on my screen, I had a little icon for breakout rooms. So when I pressed that, another screen appeared and it asked me, how many rooms did I want? Did I want to do them manually or did I want to do them automatically? I say for now, do it automatically. There are times when you would want to do them manually, and we might talk about that. Once you do that, you click on that button, you say how many rooms you want. So I told you we were going to do 4 to 5 in a room, and that was about 11 rooms. I clicked on it. It showed me what those rooms were going to be. It divided you all up, put you in the rooms. And then all I had to do was click a button that said open breakout rooms. And I did. And you all need to do that. What do you need to do to set up to get the breakout icon on your command bar?
You need to have an account.
You need to have an account.
And that's different than the downloaded free.
Yeah.
So you have to pay to make sure to get breakout rooms.
Right. And you need to be the host. That's right. Thank you. Yeah.
And is there a certain level you need to pay?
Zoom has been changing things. They just changed it for education, where free education accounts now have more features than they did before. But for the general sort of accounts, you need to get that pro version to be able to control things like closed captioning and breakout rooms and things like that. Okay. And I think for all but the smallest of fellowships, breakout rooms are essential, okay? I did have a question here about, is there a way to put like a trained leader in each room? And that's a great question, because we'll be talking about small group ministry later. And if you all maybe already have small group ministry programs in your congregations and you want to use those trained leaders to be in the breakout rooms, you can. You can assign people, even though you've randomized the rooms, you can assign certain people to the rooms, okay? So there's a lot of flexibility here. And like I said, these are the things, these are the features that Zoom has been adding over the years that just makes it more and more valuable. So yes, you can do that. Yeah. And we've had a couple of people mention online coffee hours, and we are going to talk about that too. All
And
right.
Phil, I got a lot of questions about how to just use basic things around Zoom, like the volume. I can't get my microphone to work. I'm going to put a link in the chat box. I am honestly doing 5 separate sessions of how to use Zoom. I'm going to teach the same thing over and over, but whoever comes, if you have more specific questions, we'll work on those. And we're trying to limit it to 30 participants a group so that you can actually ask questions. So if the first session you sign up for is filled, go to the next one. So I think March 31st is full, but there's April 2nd, 7th, 9th, and 14th. And if we need more than that, I will offer more. I will offer how to use Zoom for as long as it helps. So you just let us know what you need. If you can't sign up, and I put it in the box so you can see the link. And it'll come out in resources too.
Thank you.
Learn more ways to protect yourself and others.
I'm going to mute everyone. Okay, and Sharon, you can unmute yourself when you need to. Yeah, I'm just trying to close the screen now down. This is what happens. A lot of screens pop up and you're like, oh, which one are we doing? Question about closed captioning. Yes, you can use closed captioning for somebody who's hearing impaired. The thing is with Zoom is somebody actually needs to be typing it in real time. Okay, so that's the thing we're dealing with. If we want to use Zoom, like let's say for a workshop like this, we would need another person here who would be typing very quickly what I was saying, what Sharon was saying, what one of you might be saying. But they do.
You froze, Phil. You're back.
I'm sorry. You know what's interesting about that too? It didn't tell me I was frozen until I was unfrozen. It's like, you've been frozen your whole time. So where did you lose me?
Something about closed captioning. Someone has to type.
Yes,
what
that's
you were
right.
saying.
That's the thing, is somebody has to be typing it in. So you have to kind of make this arrangement where you have somebody to type it and so forth. But it is there, it is available, and it's something that you may be able to figure out how to work with in your congregation. And yes, it always really does help to use earbuds with a microphone and everything. It just makes the sound clearer for everyone. Okay, so what I'm curious about right now is just how was that experience? Did people find something that they had that there's a positive thing that they've learned or experienced during this time?
Why don't you put your answers in the chat? And by the way, Phil, excellent open and honest questions. How was your experience with that as an open and honest question? If it were a closed question, you would have said, did you like that? And people would have had to say yes or no. But you gave them an open and honest option.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for the affirmation. Okay. So yeah, share those in the chat though, if you had some things that were interesting. And a question about closed captioning that I don't know the answer to is, does it go to everyone or just the participants who turned it on? I'm thinking it only goes to the participants that turn it on, but that was something that Zoom has a tutorial about closed captioning that could probably answer that question. All right, so as I said, check-ins may be the most important thing we can be doing right now. And there would be 2 ways that you can do this, okay? One way is to do a church-wide check-in at a particular time and break out into groups like this, okay? And what would be helpful about that is maybe to do those at different times. Let's say you wanted to do a check-in with parents with young children bedtime might not be the best time to do it, right? So maybe do it later, who knows, find a time where it could work. You might have people who, would rather do something like this in the morning, on a weekday morning. So schedule time for that in the evening. So I'm thinking one of the best ways to do check-ins is to say, church-wide check-ins are going to be available on these days at these times. Show up. We're using the Zoom platform. When you get there, we're going to break into small groups, and we get to check in with each other about how things have been for you. So that's one way to do it. Another would be to have a number of different check-in times that were geared towards individuals where you wouldn't use the breakout room. And that would mean setting them up ahead of time, right? You would need to look at your list of congregants and get in touch with everybody and say, hey, we're going to be doing check-ins. Would you like to participate? And give them some possible times, and then start putting people into groups, and then be able to do the check-ins there without having to do the breakout groups. And those you could do check-ins. Sharon, we were going to mention group size. I'm thinking when we're talking about these small groups, 4 to 8 really is what we're talking about. When you're doing small groups in churches, you can go up to 12 and things like that. But this kind of setting is kind of a strain on the intimacy. And so keeping them small, I think, is helpful.
And we also honored when Phil and I talked about this, but if you had a small group of 3 or 11 people, would that be fine too? Yeah, we're recommending
Yes,
4
sure,
to 8,
sure.
but sure,
These are all
up
just,
to
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
15 if you had to.
There's
Okay.
kind of a number there. But as you can see, if you're going to be giving like a minute or two for everybody to check in, 15, 20 people, you start taking a lot of time up. So if you're thinking about doing these check-in groups, either do them where you do the breakout with the whole church, larger groups, or contacting people and setting up smaller specific groups. Think about 4 to 8, and then as Sharon said, if you have 3, if you have 9, it's okay.
And 2 other questions that appeared in the chat box. One is it just the host who needs to have the pro account? Yes, and then everyone else can just use the free app as long as one person has the account where you can. But Phil, can't you also just do free Zoom meetings? They end at 45 minutes.
Right,
So,
I was just going to say that. If you
yeah.
wanted to do option B, where you had lots of check-ins going on, you could, if you already have pastoral care team set up, if you have 5 people on your pastoral care team, you can have those 5 people divide up the congregation, get in touch with people, and arrange to meet with them. And they would only need a free account to do that, because they could get up to 40 minutes with having multiple people in a meeting. So they could invite 4 people, and 5 of you all could be there, and you could do your check-in that way. All right. Yeah, and
The other thing I want to add, Phil, is there was a question about Zoom tutorials. I put the link in for Zoom tutorials. There's a tutorial on how do you download Zoom? How do you do breakout rooms? How do you do polling? There's a link to everything.
Yeah, it's a great resource. And Kelly has mentioned that Zoom has suspended the 40-minute time limit. And I've heard that too. I heard it was just for education, but it may be for everyone. So check out those free accounts. And now you're getting some ideas of what you can be doing with them. And people are talking about workarounds. Yes, you could always do 2 back-to-back 40-minute meetings. That's certainly possible. So, all right. So that's kind of the thing with the check-ins. I want to move on to coffee hour, because we had a couple people already post about this. Coffee hour is a great place to do these small group check-ins. Okay. And I think I've been reading the Facebook posts about what people are experiencing on Sunday morning. And, one congregation I read, they weren't prepared to do the breakout rooms, and they ended up with what we have here, a screen with, what do we got, 25 people right here, plus we have another thing over here with, well, there's 20 more, so you really, how are we all going to talk together, right? How, and I could ask a question like we did, an open and honest question, but there's 50 people here, right? So, people are going to drop out before they have a chance to speak. So I saw multiple places saying we did the breakout rooms. We had a couple people comment here already that they did the breakout rooms during coffee hour. And that is a fantastic way to do this. So I want you to think about how we've done these check-ins. Think about your coffee hour and using the breakout rooms as a way to do the coffee hour, still with a prompt of some sort, right? Perhaps you're a congregation. We've heard people doing this where they all decided to go watch the worship service at another congregation, and then their church was going to be all gathering together afterwards for a little coffee hour and talking about the experience. And that's another place where you could go and break out rooms and maybe, you know, have a question about the service that you could share with each other. Okay. So I really do think that's one of the best ways to do coffee hour now. And then I saw something today that I went back and tried to find, but I couldn't. Somebody said, oh, we had visitors at coffee hour. Has anybody done like a digital visitor card? Right? And they have, of course. It's really just like a Google form or just a simple form for people to fill out, and it gets sent to some email address that you give it. I checked one of them out, and it was just very simple, you know, like, is this your first time visiting? You know, the kind of things you might have on a visitor form. So I can imagine coffee hour. We're all together, 50 some of us. And I would say, you know, if anybody's new here to the first Zoomitarian church, that's what Chip Roush called his church now, the first Zoomitarian church. If you'd like to, we have digital visitor forms for you to fill out. And then you would just do what Sharon's been doing, is share the link in the chat and say, you know, we've shared the link in the chat. And if you'd like to, you know, let us know who you are and, you know, get on the email. Zoomitarian, Zoomiversalist. That's even better. Zoomitarian, Zoomiversalist. Yeah, you know, if you'd like to get more information, but, you know, offer them a chance to do a digital visitor card. So I think that's a great thing to do at coffee hour. And I'm just suggesting that you would do that before you broke into the smaller groups. And then another thing you can do with the smaller groups is like when we came back here, is just have people share in the chat too, maybe something that came up or whatever. If the numbers dwindle, you might actually have a few people hanging out where you might be able to all talk together. You can be flexible that way with it. But I definitely think that using breakout rooms during coffee hour is kind of essential. And it's also still a check-in for us as well. You know, it's an opportunity to check in.
Phil,
Sure.
I'm not sure everyone knows how to use the chat. Could you explain where to find that and how to use that?
Yeah. You know, if you're on an iPad or a phone or another kind of tablet, I'm not sure if it's going to be in the same place, but on my screen, it's at the bottom, almost in the center, and it just says chat. And the default setting for it is that when you send a message, it goes to everybody. So, you know, if you haven't had a chance to do that, you can get in there and just say, hey, I found the chat. And that's where it is. And then you'll see that the chats are showing up in that same thing, and you can click on it and see what they actually are. You can also open the chat up on the side, I think. So just, you know, different ways you can do that. I want to say something about using the chat, but I'm going to wait till we move on to our next section. Sharon, anything?
The only other thing I'd say about the chat is that you can also communicate with everyone, or it says everyone, and then there's a little arrow. If you click the arrow, you get a drop-down menu of everyone's name. So if you wanted to send a private message like, love your sweater, not that you would do that, but if you wanted to, you could.
All right. So check-ins, I think, are really of the moment right now. I mean, we're all sort of isolated, and maybe we are just kind of need to just be with some other people and share some things. And that's why I think it's such an important thing. But another small group thing we can do is do small group ministry in a more traditional sort of sense. How many of you have small group ministry in your congregations already? Yeah. Yeah. So like I said, you may already have some people trained to do small group ministries, and you can do a similar sort of thing as you can that we mentioned doing the check-ins, which maybe bring everybody together and break into the rooms. And that's where you would want to arrange the rooms by maybe putting people into their tradition, whatever small group ministry group they're usually in. Or you can have, like we've talked about, people with an individual Zoom account. They can just gather and meet around a single person's account. But I really think that that's the next level of using Zoom for small groups, is finding ways to do that kind of deeper sharing that we do in small group ministry. And so to me, the big differences between these check-in kind of things and small group ministry is, one, the frequency. Check-ins the church might just be doing it during coffee hour. Maybe they're going to do one during the week. But when churches do small group ministry, they usually have multiple groups, and those groups are committed to meeting regularly. So it's something that might happen every 2 weeks or every month, but it's a regular sort of thing, depending on their frequency there. They take longer, right? A small group ministry session can take an hour to an hour and a half. That's where the 40-minute limit, if it does exist, might be a problem. But they take longer than these check-ins would probably take. There are more elements in small group ministry. The check-ins basically is introduce yourself and answer this question, right? But small group ministry has a lot more going on in it. There's the opening, there's a check-in, there's a reading, perhaps a topic that you explore, like that. And then finally, there's oftentimes a need for outside resources in small group ministry. How many people are using some of those monthly theme things you can subscribe to, like Soul Matters or Touchstones? Yeah, and those all come with, if you've subscribed to that part of it, with small group ministry sections in it, right? And so you can keep doing those in your congregations using Zoom, and I would really, really encourage you to do that. We wanted to share something with you. I need to find it on my screen here for a second. Sharon, do you have anything to say at the moment?
You're doing a great job, Phil.
Thank you. Anything else? While I look for my thing.
Do you want me to bring it up? Do you want me to share screen if you need me to?
I think I got it. I got it.
It's spirituality and practice, right?
Yeah,
I
I want the one on kindness. Yeah, and I found it. So I'm going to start sharing my screen now. I got it. All right. Thanks, Sharon. So I'm going to show you a place where you can get these kind of resources, and it's one of my favorites. It's called spiritualityandpractice.com. It's done by Frederick and Marianne Brusset. Frederick is a UCC minister. Marianne Brusset is a interfaith minister now. She went to the same seminary that I got my spiritual direction training at. So a couple of ministers, they've got this tremendous website that they've had for years, and they're built around practices. And the practices are, you can see them here: hope, attention, beauty, being present, compassion, devotion, enthusiasm. They're similar to the kind of things that you might see in Soul Matters or Touchstones, or the Church of the Larger Fellowship does some of these. Some individual congregations do themes every month. It's similar to that. And if you can see over here on the right-hand side, they have just lots of little things you can do. Some spiritual practice. I'm on kindness here. So they have some spiritual practices around kindness. They have some quotes you can get around kindness. Just things you can share. But the thing I want to show you here is they have these program plans. And basically, they're the small group ministry program plans. They include opening words, check-in, a topic for reflection and journaling, a checkout and closing words, and they're designed for a group gathering of 1 to 2 hours. And the truth is, I actually helped them put that together, these small group ministry sections that they have on spirituality and practice. And what I did is I took the resources they already had and just put them into this format. So this is one on kindness. They say a program for individuals and small groups in the spiritual practice of kindness. So the opening words from Dalai Lama: there is no need for temples, no need for complicated philosophy. Our own brain, our own heart is our temple. My philosophy is kindness, he says. And then some time for checking in, like we just did. You have a topic. In this case, it's a little story from D.T. Suzuki about the Buddha. It's in gendered language. It'd be very easy to turn this into non-gendered language. And that's what I would suggest too. If you have stories like this that are in very gendered language, you can just, you know, say there was a farmer who heard a noise coming from their yard. He saw the farmer, they saw some children playing in a tree. So you can do that. Then there's a question for you that could be a discussion amongst yourselves, or something to just journal about, or just, you know, kind of hold in your heart. But share a story about a time when you were surprised by someone's kindness to you. And that's a pretty open and honest question, I think. Sharon, what do you think? Yeah. You know, we're asking for people to tell a story and experience that they've had. So then some closing words. Be kind to people, whether they deserve your kindness or not. If your kindness reaches the deserving, good for you. If your kindness reaches the undeserving, take joy in your compassion. And the one thing I really like about spirituality and practices is that they have these ways to practice this thought. So they suggest that you find a way to be kind to an unsuspecting person as you go about living your life. So I'm just presenting these as kind of a pattern for a small group ministry that you could be using Zoom to continue in your congregations, or maybe this is an opportunity to even start it if you haven't. If you have people trained to lead these things, that's great. If not, I think 4 people could probably, 4 or 5, 6 people could get together and work through this on themselves, by themselves. So that's just a little recommendation I have there. Sharon, any thoughts or comments at this point?
I'm just very impressed that you're on this website. You might not know, but Phil is like this teacher of spiritual direction. You're learning from a great person right now, folks. I'm learning too, just as he talks.
Oh, thank you, Sharon. Okay.
I'm being sincere.
I
You can edit this
understand.
out later. He's
That's
like,
okay.
edit out.
All right. So what I'd encourage you to think about doing now is who might benefit from some groups like this, okay? And that's kind of the next level, is affinity groups, building groups around needs and interests. And I think we're in a great time for that now too. Okay, so Sharon and I were kind of brainstorming about this earlier. I don't know how big your congregations are, but you know, in a fairly large congregation, the leaders of the congregation could probably sit down and have some sense of who amongst you might really need a little support, a little opportunity to share, a little spiritual respite. So we were thinking maybe healthcare workers. If you have nurses, doctors, first responders, people who might be getting caught up in this in ways that those of us who don't have those roles wouldn't understand, you could offer them the opportunity to gather virtually in rooms like this to share their experiences, just to have an opportunity to do that. Business people might be worried about their business. You could have an opportunity for them to just kind of share from a more spiritual perspective about it. As I mentioned earlier, parents with children, I know they're looking for a lot of resources these days, and congregations finding ways to set up times where parents with children can maybe share their experiences and, you know, get a little support amongst themselves. Elders, I know not all of us have the capability of being online like this, but one of the things you can do with Zoom too is have people call in rather than be on there visibly. And so you could maybe make an arrangement where people who are in retirement homes or nursing homes or things like that might be able to gather with some other people that way. Singles, your single adults in your congregations might benefit from having times offered for them to gather. So just lots of things like that. And I'm curious if people have any other groups that they might be able to think of that would appreciate something like this.
Phil, can I tell you a group I did this weekend?
Sure.
I have a sister who does not live in this country, and my sisters and I got together for art group. And my one sister was knitting her socks, and my other sister was fixing her puppy mats, and I was coloring in a coloring book. And at the end, we'd be like, "Look how far I got," or "Oh, I dropped a stitch." And we talked while we did it, and so it was like an art and craft group.
Yep. And tomorrow night we have been doing soup nights at my house for 15 years now, something like that. Once a month we make a bunch of soup and we invite people over, just kind of a long list of people, and maybe a dozen might show up. Yeah, first responders is an affinity group. Thank you, George. Yes. So a dozen people might show up, and we can't do that right now. That's the kind of social gathering that we're supposed to be avoiding. So what we did last night is we sent out an invitation to soup night. We gave them the recipe for the soup that we're going to be making. If they want to try to make that soup, that's fine. If they want to bring their own soup, that's fine. But we're all going to get together and slurp soup together, I guess. And if it gets too big, we're going to, you know what we're going to do. We're going to go into breakout rooms, right? And we're going to do what we usually do. We sit around the kitchen table to do this. Or if it's a big group, we're in the kitchen table and the dining room table. But we're going to do the same thing. And we'll see how it goes. But that's an affinity group right there. Those are the people that we get together once a month. And people are really sharing their groups here. They're great. Tech groups, first responders. Yeah, if you have more ideas, go ahead and put them in the chat. But that's, I think, an important thing to offer congregations. And then we talked about the open, talk about people in your congregations. We talked about open and honest questions. And so one of the things you might consider is working with somebody in one of those groups to maybe discern what might be a good open and honest question for their group to think about. We had some people did Soul Matters book discussion groups. Thank you for the book discussion groups reminder. Yeah. One of the things I would recommend is look at the common reads that the UUA has been offering over the last few years. Those come with discussion guides. The discussion guides have multiple sessions. The books are downloadable, so people don't have to go out of the house to get them. They could still order them and have them delivered too. But so I think book groups that have study guides or discussion guides to help with your conversations, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Phil, there was a question back in the chat about if you are recording something.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, so you record, and when you're done, it'll say we have a recording to download. It'll just pop up on your computer. One of the things I want to tell you is I can get the file, but I can't download it on my computer, which is brand new. It's too big if you've recorded for half hour, 45 minutes, or an hour. And I, through UUA, we use something called WeTransfer. So you'll need to find something else that can actually download a very large hour-long recording, just so you know.
Yeah. So I've been able to download them on mine, but then you got to, yeah. So, thank you, Sharon. So we've got about 20 minutes left. Do you think we should move on to our last suggestion?
Oh, I do. It's fun.
Okay. All right. So, and you have the questions ready?
Yeah, and stay till the end. Because we're going to do part 2 of this, and we're going to have fun. Okay, we're offering another session of this, so stay to the end to learn what it is.
Yeah. You know what, Sharon? I don't see the polling feature on my thing, so we might have to wing that.
Oh, that's so sad. Why didn't it come up?
Maybe I have to activate it. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But we'll,
Nuts. We did it this day and it was a test. We were going to show you the polling feature with this,
I,
which is
yeah,
fun.
yeah, we'll do that for sure next time.
Yes, we will.
Yeah. And actually, I have something to share about that too. But,
Okay.
all right. So one thing we're suggesting for small groups then is to actually do a game night at your congregation. How many people have done those face-to-face physically in their congregations where you have people come and play games? Well, you know, we can do it virtually too. And I just did this with my family, my wife's family, actually. When we get together for holidays, we love to play games. And so we arranged a Zoom room and everybody got on. And we were in little groups of this family in Vancouver, BC, this family in Goshen, Indiana, and this family in St. Paul. And we all got together and we played our favorite game together. And it was a game that requires speaking, and it even requires doing some charade sort of bits. And it actually worked. It was really unbelievable. So one of the things I think we could be offering our churches in a small group sort of way is to be doing some games. And we wanted to share with you a large game at first, just so you can get a taste of the possibilities. And the feature that we didn't have enabled, that we really wanted to have enabled, was the polling. And we're going to make sure we do that at our next event. Sharon, do you have the registration link for that?
Yeah, I can put that in the chat. Let me mute myself and go find
Yeah,
it.
I think it's on the calendar already. So if you could take a look at it. So Sharon and I are going to be doing another webinar next week on the same day, same time, in the same Zoom room. And it's going to be how to host a game night in your a virtual game night in your congregation. Okay. And so we're going to be going much farther with these things. No, I had something to say about that.
And
but,
you found great games.
well, we found
Phil found these games that are Victorian parlor games.
Victorian parlor games. You can actually play them virtually. So, so we're going to just do a little one here. Do you have those questions? I can turn it over to you and I can get the link if you want. 1 second, she's saying. Okay. Yes. Anyway, playing games together and having a little fun and levity, I think, is important for us now. So, okay, here you go. Sharon has put it in the chat. This is the link to that webinar for next week. If you're interested, we're taking registrations on that one, and we're going to have a limit about 100. We didn't get there this time, but if you want to, you know, continue with learning some small group things, but this time just for a little fun, that's what we'll be doing next week. So we have a game. We were going to do this in a large group with a polling, and we can't, but we'll do it with holding your hands up. Okay. And this is, what is it, Sharon?
Is this the one on what time you'd rather be? That's the question I was going to do first.
It's the Would You Rather. How many people have played Would You Rather? Yeah? Okay. Some tips on playing Would You Rather at church. Don't be too gross. Don't be too risque. And don't ask questions about, you know, personal appearance or something like that. You know, we have a lot of you know, people with varying hairlines and things like that. So we want to just respect people's, you know, different bodies. So, because often though they have questions like that in Would You Rather. But we picked some good questions for us here. We were going to do a poll on it. Next week, we will do the poll, so you'll see how that works. But for now, let's just raise hands, and I'll just kind of scroll back and forth and see what people say. Sharon, would you rather?
Yes. Go ahead, Phil.
No, you please.
Oh, would you rather always be 10 minutes late or always be 20 minutes early?
Let's see. That's a good question. Would you rather always be 10 minutes late or 20 minutes early? So I'm a 20 minutes early person too. I think everybody who's a 20 minutes early person, if you'd raise your hand. Okay. All right. Let me check the other screen here. Okay. Well, where are our 10 minutes late people? We got 10 minutes? Yeah, we got those. Yeah, yeah. Okay. You know what I realize? That's not a fair question for me because I usually am 20 minutes early, you know? Yeah, George has there's also a raised hands feature on here too that you can do. The polling works a little bit better, but yes.
Phil,
So
I have a joke about my mother.
what?
My dad always said, "You're going to be late to your own funeral." That's what he
Yes,
would say to
that's
her.
right. That's
And
right.
that woman didn't know how to be anything but a half hour late.
Oh, wouldn't even, this game would not
20
have worked
minutes, 10 minutes late was early.
early. Do you have another question for us?
Here is the question going in the chat. Would you rather live in a cave or a treehouse?
Would you rather live in a cave or a treehouse? I know my answer. How many people would rather live in a cave? Got a few people, yeah? All right, how many people would rather live in a treehouse? Yeah, we've got a lot of us who would rather live in a treehouse. I would live in a cave if it were like at the bottom of a tree and there were like, it would be an elevator on the inside of the tree so I could still go up and down the tree. That would be the kind of one I would want to. Yeah, consistent. Oh man, okay, we're getting a little consistent temperature in a cave. There are reasons to live in a cave. It's going to be the same temperature. I like that. I like
One
that.
of the things I want to say about Would You Rather, it's a great intergenerational game. So you
That's
might be
right.
like, this is a silly question. Can you imagine playing this with a family that's multi-generational, or breaking up your congregation so children in your congregation can interact with adults? I mean, so a lot of the things we're trying to model for you, just be creative in how you could use them.
And you can come out of the cave at times. It's just where you kind of live there, but yeah. Right, Sharon. It is great. And that's the thing when we talk about games too, we're going to talk about games that might be good for adults, not adult games, but you know, for older folks. But also family games, you know, and like I said, you can play together in a group. So, you know, like we had my wife and my son were in one place, my brother-in-law and his wife, and even an exchange student that was living with them because of the, you know, social distancing, and she had to get off campus, and then our families in Vancouver, we were all together. So so yes, there's just lots of ways to do this. So we recommend this so much we're doing a whole nother webinar. So Sharon, did we have one more question, or is that what we have?
Those are the questions, but I wanted
Okay.
to say about the webinar next week, we're also going to give you links because Phil has done all this research about sites that offer games. So there are links to like a series of questions to ask, how to play a series of games. He's done all this research for you, which is terrific.
Right. So I'm going to send you back in your breakout rooms just super quickly to just try a little small group game. And I love the name of this. It's a Victorian game. It's called The Minister's Cat. Okay. It's very, anybody ever play The Minister's Cat? Yeah. Okay. It's very simple. You start with the letter A, and you're going to be 4 or 5 of you. So each of you has to say an adjective about the cat that starts with that letter. So the minister's cat is an adorable cat. The minister's cat is an attractive cat. The minister's cat is a aware cat. The minister's cat is a, you know, and then you move on to the letter B, and then the letter C. So I'm going to let you just do that for just a few minutes just to see what it's like. So get your group and just go a couple of rounds of that and see where you end up with, and then we'll call you back. Okay, I'm going to put you, I think, pretty much in the same rooms you were in before. Hey, should we just play here amongst ourselves, those of us who are unassigned? Yeah? Can you unmute yourselves? We'll play a little. You know, I got stuck. Okay, the minister's cat is an attractive cat. Kitty, do you have one?
The minister's cat is an anxious cat.
Anxious. You want to pass that to somebody else?
Juanita?
Agile cat.
Agile. Want to pass that to someone else, Juanita? To Gus or Barb?
Oh, he's an active cat.
Active cat. Barb.
Aggravating.
He's adorable.
Adorable cat. Well, I think the minister's cat is a bumbling cat. Kitty, you were next, weren't you?
Well, I have more names on our list than
Yeah.
just like, is Marjorie there? Or Sherry?
I'm here.
Oh, Sherry.
And Barb stole my word. I was going to say adorable.
Would you got a B word maybe? Minister's cat is a
Bouncy cat.
bouncy cat. Oh, Kitty, it's your turn then. How about now?
The minister's cat is a bad cat.
Bad cat. Juanita, you have one?
Bumbling cat.
Bumbling. Hey, Gus?
I don't know. Did we say bossy yet?
Nope. Minister's cat is a bossy cat. Barb?
Did somebody already do beautiful?
No. The minister's
It's a
cat-
beautiful.
Beautiful cat. Let's try C. The minister's cat is a confident cat. Sherry, do you have one?
The minister's cat is a comic cat.
Kitty.
Ooh.
We still got you, Kitty? Might have froze there. Juanita?
Scaredy cat. No, that's not good. Cowardly cat. Cowardly cat. There we go.
Oh. Yes, do you have one?
Is he a cozy cat?
A what kind?
Cozy?
Cozy cat. Minister's cat is a cozy cat. I like that. Barb.
Compassionate. The minister's cat is a compassionate.
All right, I love these. Let's just do one more and then we'll call everybody back. Okay, maybe C, D. The minister's cat is a daring cat. Sherry.
Of course, and I can't think of one. Pass.
Okay.
Come back to me.
Kitty, we're on to letter D.
Okay. The minister's cat is a diabolical. Was the
Ooh,
first?
Okay.
Oh.
Juanita?
Dwaddling cat.
Waddling. Ooh. Gus?
Dumbfounding.
Dumbfounding.
Now
Barb?
I have one. It's a devilish cat.
Ooh, Sherry, thank you.
That's good.
Devilish, diabolical.
And the minister's cat is delightful.
I like how you keep bringing us around, Barb, to something cool.
Oh.
All right. Well, so this is just a sample of the kind of games that you can do online, and I think we need this kind of stuff right now. So I'm going to call everybody back. They'll be back in a minute or so, but it's great playing with you all. Okay?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Register for that webinar if you want more fun and frivolousness. Oh, we didn't even get the letter F. The minister's cat is a fun cat. Antsy, somebody put Antsy in for the minister's cat. Okay, oh, nobody's come back yet. Do you think they're really just so much into playing this? Are they all gonna just show up at once? Yes.
Oh, all right. I think we're done.
Yeah, you are. All right.
Well, nice talking to you.
How did that go? We had a good time. There were about 6 of us left over. We got the letter D. Did anybody get farther than D? Oh, yeah.
J.
Oh, wow.
Hey, Phil, we just, as long as we had A's, we kept going around in the
You
circle.
kept going around with A's? Sure.
Yeah, we just kept going. We just kept going with A's.
Got
till
to
we ran
I.
out.
Somebody got to I.
We got to
Incredible.
I.
We got to M. We got to I.
Whoa.
But there are
Wow.
only 3 of
Oh,
us.
there's a cat.
We got all the way, but we only did one word.
There's a cat.
We got to
Thank
be,
you,
but we
Dittmar.
were a lot of us. It was
Thank
only
you.
2 of us.
Oh, okay. So so that's, this is it for tonight. I just wanted to give you a sense of just the range of things you can do with small groups using Zoom, ranging from the simple check-in all the way to maybe organizing a big game night at your congregation, and putting people into small groups and things like that. So we really appreciate you all being here, and Sharon, what do we want
I gotta
to
say, it's great for me to see your faces, and I laughed with you, which helped me. I have to admit, personally, I was feeling a little anxious when I sat down, a few things on my mind as I went to do my job tonight, and then laughing about what you made up a cat word just eased my mind. So thank you for playing games with me.
And so we will be here next week at this same time. It's actually this same Zoom room. We would ask that you register again, and we'll play some more games. We'll learn more about how to do this. Just to tease a little bit, you can actually level up and use people's phones and be texting things and stuff like that. I mean, you can really just do a lot here. So, all right.
Okay.
So we will be sending you that email with a recording of this and those resources. And if you have any questions for us, just send us an email, plund@uua.org or sdittmar@uua.org. Okay?
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thanks.
You.
Bye-bye.